Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. When someone ignores you, it's not a signal to chase, it's a signal to rise. Ignoring is not power, it's immaturity. And the strongest response is not begging, not explaining, not proving. It's walking away with dignity so loud that it shakes their world. The price of ignoring you is losing you. And that's a cost no one can afford once they realize your worth. When a man ignores you, it is not just silence, it is a test, an unspoken challenge to see how much of yourself you're willing to give away without being valued. Too many women crumble at this moment, chasing validation, begging for scraps of attention, lowering themselves to remain in the shadow of someone who does not even recognize their light. But let me tell you this, every time you tolerate being ignored, you write a story where you're not the queen but the servant, not the star but the background. You are teaching him the exact opposite of what you deserve. You are teaching him that your worth can be dismissed. Silence is not neutral, it is communication. When he ignores you, he is communicating one of two things. Either he is too immature to value your presence, or he is testing whether your self-esteem is weak enough to tolerate disrespect. In either case, your response determines the script of your relationship. If you chase, he learns that he can withdraw and still hold power. If you beg, he learns that ignoring you is an effective weapon. But if you rise above, if you step back with poise and show him that your world does not revolve around his attention, suddenly the silence becomes a mirror, and he is forced to see himself for who he really is. Ignoring someone is easy, it requires no courage. Walking away with dignity, however, requires a strength that only high-value women possess. Imagine this, you do not slam doors, you do not cry for attention, you do not fight for crumbs. Instead, you radiate a calm so powerful that it unsettles him. You move as though his presence or absence barely dents your spirit, because your worth was never built on him in the first place. That is how you teach a man the price of ignoring you, not with words, not with anger, but with silence stronger than his own. Do you realize how dangerous it is to beg for attention? Every time you chase, you program his mind to believe that you will always be available no matter how poorly he treats you. You feed his ego while starving your own soul. But when you step back, when you reclaim your silence, you do the opposite. You shrink his inflated power and expand your own. He begins to question, why isn't she running after me? Why does she seem unaffected? That question, that unease, is where the true power begins. A man must understand that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. Privileges can be lost, access can be revoked. Too many women forget this and act as if his attention is the prize, when in reality your energy, your loyalty, your nurturing, your wisdom, these are the treasures he should fight to keep. If he dares to ignore them, he must feel the loss so deeply that he regrets ever taking you for granted. Not because you punished him, but because you became unavailable in a way he cannot control. You see, when you walk away powerfully, you do not just remove yourself from his life, you remove the comfort of being taken for granted. He will search for you in other women, but he will not find the same depth, the same presence, the same fire. That is the price of ignoring a woman who knows her worth. It is not revenge. It is not manipulation. It is simply the consequence of undervaluing something irreplaceable. And trust me, that is a pain far worse than any argument or confrontation could deliver. The shocking truth is this. Most men do not realize the value of a woman until she is gone. As long as you are available, answering his calls instantly, reacting to his moods, forgiving his silence, he will never be forced to face himself. It is only when the light disappears, when your laughter no longer fills his days, when your support is no longer guaranteed, that he finally confronts the void he created. And in that moment, he will understand, ignoring you was not power, it was the beginning of his own downfall. Do not confuse silence with weakness. Silence can be the loudest roar a woman possesses. It says, I do not need to explain myself. I do not need to beg. I do not need to fight for what should come naturally. My absence will speak louder than my presence ever begged to. That kind of silence forces him to look in the mirror and confront the emptiness of his choices. That kind of silence makes him realize he was never the prize. You were. The world has taught women to cling, to nurture endlessly, to prove their worth through patience. But let me challenge you. What if the highest form of love for yourself is walking away the moment your worth is questioned? What if the real strength is not in holding on, but in releasing with dignity? That is the kind of power that shocks a man into respect, because it is so rare, so unshakable, that it cannot be manipulated. That is the price he pays when he ignores you. You must understand that ignoring is not just about him. It is about what you allow. If you tolerate being dismissed, you are telling the universe that you are comfortable with crumbs, and the universe will deliver more crumbs. But the moment you reject this pattern, the moment you say, I will not be ignored, and you back it up with action, life begins to align with your self-worth. Better men, better opportunities, better energy flows toward you. The price he pays becomes the reward you receive. Some women fear that walking away means losing him forever. But I tell you this, if walking away makes him disappear, then he was never yours to begin with. If your absence does not awaken his respect, his desire, his recognition of your value, then he was only holding space in your life without purpose. Why would you cry over someone who cannot even comprehend your worth? Why would you cling to someone blind to your light? Let them go. Their absence is a blessing disguised as rejection. Think about it. Every empire is built on boundaries. A queen without boundaries is not a queen. She is a prisoner in her own palace. Your boundaries teach others how to treat you. If you accept being ignored, you are building an empire with broken walls. But when you enforce your boundaries, when you refuse to entertain disrespect, you are constructing a fortress so strong that only the worthy may enter. That is how you command respect without ever raising your voice. The power of walking away is not in punishing him. It is in protecting yourself. It is in preserving your energy for someone who sees you, hears you, values you. When you withhold your attention from a man who ignores you, you are redirecting that same energy toward growth, dreams, and a life so abundant that his absence becomes irrelevant. That is how you win. Not by proving your worth to him, but by proving it to yourself. He may try to return. He may test your resolve. He may whisper promises to pull you back. But remember this. If his actions did not match his words before, what makes you think they will now? Walking away means closing the door to inconsistency and opening it to alignment. The price of ignoring you must be final. It must sting, it must echo, it must teach. And it will only teach if you do not run back at the first sign of regret. Hold your crown steady. So my message to you is simple. Stop teaching men that they can ignore you and still keep you. Start teaching them that the privilege of you requires effort, presence, and consistency. Do not lower the price of admission to your heart. Do not discount your soul for someone who cannot even look up to see your light. Let your absence be the reminder that you are not replaceable. That is the lesson, that is the power, and that is how you teach him the price of ignoring you. There is something magnetic about a woman who refuses to chase. It is not arrogance, it is self-possession. When you do not rush to fix his silence, you are showing that you are not dependent on his approval. This unsettles him because most men are used to women who bend, who wait, who beg for clarity. When you do not, he is forced to reckon with a new reality. A reality where his absence does not break you, where your life flows regardless of his attention. That is how true power is born. Men often misinterpret kindness as weakness. They think your patience means tolerance for disrespect. They think your forgiveness means unlimited chances. But when you draw the line, when you show him that his silence will be met with distance instead of desperation, he realizes his game is over. Suddenly, the comfort of ignoring you turns into the discomfort of losing you. That shift changes everything because he is no longer in control, you are. When he ignores you, you must not collapse into insecurity. Instead, you rise into self-awareness. Ask yourself, why should I fight for a man who does not fight for me? Why should I beg for attention that should come naturally in love? If love is real, it flows. If love is forced, it drains. And if he cannot value you without being reminded, then he is not a partner, he is a liability. Your refusal to chase becomes your liberation. The hardest thing for a man to digest is realizing that you are not addicted to him. He expects your identity to revolve around his moods, his presence, his validation. But when you show him that your world is bigger than his attention, that you can thrive in his silence, he begins to panic. Because what does it say about him if you can live, laugh, and love yourself without needing him to fill the void? It says he was never your anchor. You were your own foundation all along. Your withdrawal should not come from anger but from clarity. Anger still gives him power because it shows that his actions dictate your emotions. But clarity is untouchable. Clarity says, I see your behavior, I understand its message, and I refuse to participate in a dynamic that dishonors me. That is not emotional reaction. That is emotional mastery. And emotional mastery is the mark of a high-value woman. The truth is, a man who ignores you is gambling. He is betting that your fear of losing him is stronger than your love for yourself. But when you walk away, when you prove that your self-respect outweighs your attachment, you shatter that illusion. He realizes too late that he bet against the wrong woman. And in that moment, the price of ignoring you is revealed. It cost him the one thing he thought he could always keep, your presence. Women often ask, what if he doesn't come back? My answer is simple. Then your silence saved you. It saved you from wasting years on someone who cannot meet your worth. It saved you from pouring into a man who only knew how to drain. His absence is not your loss. It is your protection. Walking away doesn't just teach him a lesson. It teaches you to trust that what leaves was never meant to stay. Never underestimate the power of becoming unavailable. Availability is a gift, not an obligation. When you stop responding instantly, when you stop rearranging your life for someone who disrespects your time, you force him to reassess his priorities. A man will always chase what feels scarce, what feels valuable, what feels rare. The moment you stop being accessible to disrespect, you transform from an option into a standard. That is the alchemy of self-worth. Understand this, when you withhold your attention, you are not playing games, you are ending them. Games exist when one person manipulates while the other tolerates. But when you step back, when you refuse to participate, the game collapses. Suddenly he is left alone with the silence he created, and silence has a way of echoing louder than any words. That echo becomes his teacher, and the lesson is brutal. He ignored the wrong woman. Sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. Imagine him checking his phone, expecting a response and finding nothing. Imagine him waiting for you to chase, only to be met with distance. Each hour of silence becomes a weight pressing on his ego. Each day a reminder that his absence has no effect on your life. This reversal unsettles him because it exposes the truth. He was never in control. You simply allowed him to believe he was. Women often confuse patience with loyalty. Loyalty is sacred, but patience without boundaries is self-destruction. Waiting endlessly for a man to recognize your worth is like watering a dead tree. It will never bloom. But when you walk away, you are planting yourself in fertile soil where respect and love can grow naturally. Your silence is not the end of love. It is the beginning of self-respect. And self-respect is the soil from which real love eventually flourishes. Let's be clear. You do not have to explain your silence. You do not have to justify your withdrawal. Explanation seeks validation, but dignity needs none. When you disappear, let your absence speak the words your lips do not need to. Let him wonder, let him question, let him feel the chill of being excluded from your warmth. That unanswered question, why did she stop, will echo in his mind longer than any lecture ever could. Your power lies not in controlling him, but in controlling yourself. You cannot force him to value you, but you can decide that his disregard has no access to your energy. That decision alone shifts the balance of power. Because once you stop giving attention to what hurts you, it loses its grip. Ignoring the one who ignored you is not retaliation, it is evolution. And in that evolution, you rise beyond his reach. Do not underestimate how deeply a man feels the absence of a woman who once gave him everything. At first, he may enjoy the freedom of ignoring you. But soon, the silence grows heavy. The laughter is gone. The care is missing. The admiration vanishes. He searches for it elsewhere but finds only shallow imitations. That is the true price of ignoring you. Realizing too late that what he dismissed was the very thing he will never find again. Every woman must understand this. You are not disposable. You are not interchangeable. You are not replaceable. When a man ignores you, it is not the end, it is the revelation. It reveals his blindness, his immaturity, his inability to cherish. But it also reveals your strength, your courage, your refusal to settle. Walking away is not a loss, it is the boldest declaration of worth. And that declaration will echo far beyond his silence.